All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. Shortly, we're going to welcome in Brad Thomas, talk about the Honda Classic. Then Drew and I will go through some NBA futures, divisional conference prices, and then the key awards. Quietly, big day in sport yesterday, Drew. Liverpool jumped out to a 2-0 lead. They were minus 1,000 on the money line and then promptly gave up 5 goals without reply at home. Eintracht Frankfurt lost 2-0 to Napoli, despite my man Kavica Kvaratskhelia missing a penalty, the best name in global sports.
That's a good name.
So, yeah, still a fair bit going on, even without the NBA. But how did your bets go yesterday?
A big old goose egg for me in the college basketball space, and a no result in the tennis world as my 2 Rio de Janeiro got pushed due to rain, as is tradition in Rio de Janeiro. And yeah, I'm ready for our long national nightmare to be over. Bring back the NBA. Can't come soon enough here. Today's going well so far. Got a little Iga Swiatek handicap in the under home. I'm not sure if you saw, but she played the great Ludmila Samsonova over in Dubai this morning. Not sure you saw the result. 6-1, 6-0. This is now a trend. Iga winning matches without really breaking a sweat. Seems like the rest of the women's tour has a problem on their hands for the rest of the spring. This one, she probably was a little disappointed. The match took 1 hour and 17 minutes. She's been keeping these under an hour. So she's probably going to do a little extra reps to get her, practice time up and sharpen her attack a little bit. I was hopeful we were going to see Iga versus Sabalenka in the final here. Sabalenka right now struggling with the great Yelena Ostapenko.
Yeah, Ostapenko suddenly has found a lot of form. I'm off Samsonova, Drew. I'm off her. Many times. Not that there's any real shame losing to Swiatek's love and one these days, because that's what she does to
Everybody's
everyone.
doing it, yeah.
All right, let's welcome in Brad Thomas. Brad, I think the last time I saw you, you were pulling out a travel tripod at midnight in Las Vegas by a blackjack table to take selfies at the table. Fantastic. And so from that, let's talk about some golf. Let's handicap the Honda Classic. Firstly, Brad, what do we need to know about the course?
Man, PGA National, it's the most difficult course that's a non-major course. There's a ton of water, and specifically, there's a ton of water on half the holes that immediately impact if you miss to the right. So that basically means you want to kind of avoid those guys who are not accurate off the tee, or guys who cut the ball, play those fades, because they're generally the guys who find trouble. There's bunkers, a ton of bunkers here. This course is so hard to the fact where if you see someone leading on moving day or even heading into Sunday, it's not a bad idea to consider betting someone behind them who might be striking the ball very well that week. There's so many come from behind victories just because you're bound to hit it in the water. You're bound to get bogeys. You're bound to get those big scores. It's just you want to limit those scores. This is probably one of my favorite courses to actually go and watch, just because as a guy who, only lives 3 hours away, it's like major conditions. So you get to see some of that major like golf without having to, number one, break the bank or travel too far.
No, that's cool. So expecting a score maybe in the low, the high single digits, low double digits.
Yes.
Probably what it takes to win here. Field relatively weak, which makes sense because you had, coming off back-to-back elevated events, $20 million purses. We have 2 more $20 million plus purses coming up with the Bay Hill next week, and then the players following. In a weaker field like this, it definitely opens the door for some of the mid-tier and the long shot players. Last year, we saw Sepp Straka come through and in surprising fashion. And so far this week, all of the sharp action I'm seeing is on guys down the board. I've seen some pretty heavy bets on Denny McCarthy. I've seen some Adam Svensson, Thomas Detry getting some money, Ben Griffin getting some bets, and Garrick Hago getting some bets. Any of those 5 guys really speak to you as far as realistic contenders here? And do you think that the top of the board is, some names that you want to take some shots on?
Yeah. So first, let's talk about like long shot. The term is so relative, especially versus the field and pricing. Like last year, if we would have been looking at long shots, they probably would have been like 60, 70 to 1. But with this field, a long shot can really be 30 to 1. And we've seen that, especially with a lot of the big name guys moving over to the other tour. I will say this. I am a Thomas Dietrich truther. I've probably bet him more times to win and finish inside the top 20 than anybody who handicaps the PGA and in those Euro crossovers. But I'm actually thinking that I love Denny McCarthy this week, right? And he's not really a long shot at 28 to 1, but in 2 out of the 3 tournaments, you saw massive weekend runs. And at this tournament, what you need to do well is you need to ball strike and you need to putt. While he might not be the best ball striker, he is hands down the best putter in the field. And if you can get hot on these Bermuda greens, you can start rolling in some birdies, because you want to get as many birdie opportunities as you can at a course that's going to absolutely take away some bogeys. And let's talk about another long shot that I like. And I'm going to give you 2, and I'll give you 2 reasons. They're kind of different profiles. Hayden Buckley. Hayden Buckley leads the field in off the tee numbers, and he actually leads the field in avoiding drives to the right. He's probably the most precise driver off the tee. And then Ben Griffin leads the field in ball striking, probably the best ball striker, especially the best ball striking rookie. They're both 55 to 1. And in this field, like we saw Sepp Straka win last year, right? Sepp Straka come in with absolute horrendous form. He had missed a ton of cuts, and he kind of like, I hate to use this phrase, but kind of luck boxed his way into a victory, because I was all over Shane Lowry. It was my biggest bet of the week. I was working the tournament. I literally drove from Miami that morning back to my house as fast as I could so I could watch Shane Lowry's entire round. Shane Lowry's playing brilliant golf. And for some reason, the weather gods make it rain for 5 total minutes to totally derail Shane Lowry's round. And Sepp Straka goes on to win because, you know, his drive's in the middle of the fairway. He doesn't have to deal with these crazy Florida rains that just come out of nowhere. But it's going to be a fun tournament despite, you know, not having some of the biggest names in there. And I think that we can extract a lot of value betting live.
Brad, speaking of Shane Lowry, let's talk about a couple of the favorites. Sungjae Im is 10 to 1, and the favorite for the tournament. Shane Lowry, second favorite at 16 to 1. By the way, quick aside, when I was flying back from our Vegas trip, Brad, the airline asked 2 men to come to the desk, and the 2 names that they said, they asked Jason Garrett and Sungjae Im to please come to the desk. Thought that's
wow.
Duo to be hanging out. And 2 men really went to the desk, and I can confirm they weren't Jason Garrett or Sungjae Im. Well, they probably were, but not the ones that Anyway, these 2 favorites, any of the 2 that you prefer, and do you think that any is value at their current prices?
Sungjae Im going off at 10 to 1 feels almost criminal, right? Like, we think about how hot Jon Rahm has been. His last 2 wins, he went off at 8.5 to 1 and 9.5 to 1. So you're telling me a guy in Sungjae Im who's only won twice on the tour, albeit one of them being the Honda Classic, is going to go off at 10 to 1. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Shane Lowry being 16 to 1 is also ridiculous as well. But if you guys are in the market and you guys have an available DraftKings boost, it boosts the odds up to plus 300. I think Shane Lowry at 20 to 1, 19 to 1 is a fantastic price. He's a great ball striker, but he can also play very, very well off the tee. For those who don't know, I keep saying this word ball striking, and it's kind of confusing and misleading, so I'm going to explain it briefly. Ball striking is a combination of total driving with greens and regulation hit. So you're going to see a lot of correlated stats, guys who are really good off the tee and guys who gain a ton of strokes on approach. So generally, you're good ball strikers. And Shane Lowry is exactly that. And at 19 to 1, for a guy who should have won this tournament last year in an easier field, I think that's a price that I can't pass up.
Okay.
Like
last week, the top 20. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Drew. I was going to ask about whether there was a long shot perhaps for the top 20.
Yeah.
So basically, Brad, is there anyone that you think who may not win the tournament, but you like at the price to finish in the top 20?
Yeah. So with tournaments like this, top 20 becomes a little bit more difficult, right? Because it's not because of the field. It's because how difficult the course is. For me, I was going to bet on Svensson at the Open. And with traveling back from Las Vegas, I literally missed that window by probably an hour where he was 60 to 1 and then got hammered all the way down to 35 to 1. I cannot, in my right mind, lose $30 worth of value on somebody and bet them. But I certainly can bet him top 20. He's plus 150 to finish inside the top 20. He's coming off a T9 at the Genesis last week, and I was following him on Thursday and Friday. He played absolutely brilliant. Then when I followed him on Saturday, he was horrendous. I think that he's a much better golfer today than he was last year. So if any guy at this course can have a 68 and a 65 in back-to-back rounds at the Honda Classic, all he needs to do is put 3 of those together, because 4 under par is pretty much impossible at this course. I think he finishes inside the top 20.
Okay, Adam Svensson, there it is. All right, Brad, people can follow you at Mr. Brad Thomas on Twitter. Can you tell people what you're working on this week?
Yeah, this week. So, of course, we're going to have the NBC Soccer Pub, but this is a fun week for videos and placement bets. So I'm going to try to find something a little funky this week for the PGA National, because I told you I don't love the placement market, but I'm going to find a guy who's going to have like plus 500 top 10 odds, and I'll post that out on the NBC Sports EDGE website.
Okay, there it is. Thanks again, Brad. We'll speak to you soon. All right, before we
you.
jump into the association, every season is draft season. Drew, get your RotoWorld draft guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts, packed with profiles, rankings, projections. Order today and get all 3 RotoWorld draft guides for the price of 2. Plus, use promo code BUNDLE5 and save an extra $5 at checkout. All right, America's nightmare is almost over. The NBA returns tomorrow, so a good time to jump into some of these futures markets. Let's start off talking some of the divisions. Now, there's not much meat on the bone with most of these, though I think there are still a few bets to be made. The Atlantic division, the Celtics are heavy favorites. They're minus 1,800 effectively. The Sixers are 10-1, and then the Nets 100-1. They're not going to win the division. The Sixers, I would like if they didn't have the hardest schedule remaining in the league. And it's not just the teams they play are the most difficult, but also they've got an absurd amount of back-to-backs coming up too. So that makes them a no bet for me. But what do you think of the Sixers at 10-1?
Yeah, can't get involved there. Not at a good enough price. And like you said, schedule's too tough, and it's too tough in terms of opponents they face, as well as the way that the schedule breaks. So I'm going to pass on that one. Although you have to love the way that they're playing lately. If that team stays healthy, they're going to be a good bet, against some of the elite teams as they come down the stretch here.
I agree with that, though I do think that the last game they played before the break, the nationally televised game against the Cavs, was kind of the quintessential Sixers game where they get up, 30 at one point and look like the best team in the league, and then just absolutely bottle it. And all of a sudden the Cavs are within, 3-4 points late. And you're just wondering how on earth has this happened again? Ultimately, they close it out, but there's just something slightly off about the Sixers, but you have to believe in their talent. Let's talk about the Central Division. The Bucks are minus 1,000. The Cavs, the only other team in the mix, at plus 500. Now, the issue here is just that, the Cavs have a really easy schedule. The Bucks have a slightly above average difficulty of schedule, but at the same time, the Cavs are 6 games back, and Giannis doesn't look like he's going to miss a significant amount of time. So again, I don't really think there's any meat on the bone for the Cavs at 5-1.
I did get involved in this one. And maybe and this is again like the All-Star break is curdling my brain, and I'm just looking for a bet because there hasn't been any game by game for NBA. But I'm in on the Cavs at 5-1. I think they realistically should be priced a little bit shorter than that. Some of the advanced models will tell you that the Bucks at full strength are minus 1,000 is a bettable price. But I think ultimately the degree of difficulty in terms of opponent is meaningful, but even much more than that, the Bucks have some scheduled losses coming up in terms of back-to-back against really tough opponents. Giannis, the question marks about when exactly he returns, the fact that they have yet to kind of give us an expected date, I think matters. Bucks potentially sliding out of the 2 seed would not surprise me at all. So Cavs, if they can put together some winning basketball down the stretch, I think could flip the Bucks. Tied 2-2 in the season series, so they're going to need some of the tiebreakers to break their way, because I could see them finishing with with equal records. But Cavs, I think, are going to close this gap pretty appreciably as the Bucks go through the remainder of their schedule.
The one thing there is that even though they are tied 2-2, Cleveland right now have got the better record in the division. And if you think they're going to make up 6 losses in the loss column, then they're almost certainly going to finish with a better division record, which would be the second tiebreak. So they almost certainly will win the tiebreak against Milwaukee, which is key. I think it's all about Giannis's health. If he's out, I mean, we just don't know anything. The reporting is so strange. It's very all over the place, noting that it's a sprained wrist ligament, but he's going to play when the swelling goes down. Like, a sprain is a tear. And I don't know if that means, but he could be back next game. He could be out 2.5 weeks. Just got no idea on that front. And there is another way to bet the Cavs as well, which we'll get to in the last segment. But let's talk about the suddenly more interesting Southeast Division after what happened yesterday with Nate McMillan being let go. The Heat are still -300 favorites. The Hawks are +275. The Wizards are 12-1. It feels like the Wizards have been 12-1 to win this division for every day of the past 5 seasons. It's just 12-1 to win a bad division type of team. The Hawks right now, I mean, they're 3 games back of the Heat, which you don't love. But this Hawks team all season, I feel like, has clearly underperformed its talent level. They're healthy, and I think that they do have a run of sorts in them. But at the same time, it is a fairly material gap. Any interest in the Hawks at +275?
I'm out on the Hawks in basically every way you can be. I'm not a Trae Young guy, not exactly understanding how this roster was put together. Clearly there's some issues with age and performance of some of the key players. Injury questions about the Heat, and in a normal season I would be looking for any way to take advantage of that, but the Heat just find ways to win against these pretty soft schedule here, whereas the Hawks have found ways to lose. So not gonna get involved with the Hawks even at +320, which this is a more manageable gap surely than Cleveland. I just don't see enough of a two-way action here, right? Atlanta's going to drop some games that they should otherwise win. That's just sort of their nature. And right now my model says the most likely outcome is the Hawks finish in the 9th. The second most likely outcome is they finish 8th. And I give them a little under 10% chance to win the Southeast.
Okay. Looks like PointsBet drifted the Hawks price after McMillan was let go to +320, which I'm not sure I agree with entirely, but yeah, they are an exceedingly uninspiring team. There are more inspiring teams, though, in the Pacific Division, which I think is the division in which there is a bet to make. And the reason why is that the Suns are -145, and I don't think they should be, because we don't know when Kevin Durant is coming back. Even when Kevin Durant does come back, the team's got no depth at all. I think this is a team that's much better suited for the playoffs than a regular season run. The Clippers are +240. The Kings are +450. The Warriors 20-1. Steph, still no timetable around him. And then the Lakers are 66-1, and they're not going to win the Pacific Division. But I think the bet to make here, which you might not like, Drew, but the Clippers at +240. Yeah. They're ahead of the Suns in the standings right now. They just beat Phoenix heading into the All-Star break. And the key here is just that Kawhi Leonard is back. This guy has got the 7th highest estimated plus in the league. He's been averaging 28 a game over his past 17. He's playing big minutes. He's not sitting games nearly as much. He's played 17 of the past 20 games. And he just looks like Kawhi Leonard. Again, the same guy he was before the injury. And I think that with their additions, we can talk about Westbrook, but I think the Clippers at +240 is the bet to make. What do you think?
Are you saying that in a vacuum, or do you say that as someone who bet the Suns right before Kevin Durant got traded there? Because that's where I'm at, and I'm thinking about defense right now. Because when that trade happened, the Suns reopened in like the -200-ish range, and I was like, oh baby, look at all that equity. But now it's kind of coming back to earth here. The Clippers beating the Suns, obviously on the eve of the All-Star break, wasn't great, but yeah, I mean this I think is going to be pretty competitive down the stretch between those two teams. And, if there's any growing pains integrating Durant, and by the way, do we know exactly when Durant will be back? These are still huge questions. So, yeah, that's, I guess, my key angle is, are you betting the Clippers in a vacuum, or is it playing defense on a Suns position.
No, I think it's just the good bet in isolation. I'm not sure why the Clippers are materially less likely to win the division than the Suns, just the rest of the way. The Clippers have more depth. I mean, Westbrook is complicated, but I think the key thing for the regular season, at least, is that Russell Westbrook is better at basketball than Bones Highland. And Bones Highland was in the rotation. He was playing minutes. Westbrook's a better player. I think that the problem is, and I would be much more in on the Westbrook move had they not without the Mason Plumlee trade, because now they're going to have two bigs on the court. And I think that Westbrook, if they were going 5 out more before they got Plumlee and they were playing Batum at center, Covington at center, then I think Westbrook is actually useful because he's one of the few guys on the team who can actually drive, penetrate. He's still a great passer. He's playing better defensively this year than he has in years past. But if you're playing Westbrook tied to Zubac or tied to Plumlee, then it creates the same problems that he had on the Lakers. But at the same time, I don't think it's destructive enough to ruin that team over the course of the regular season, certainly. So yeah, I think the Clippers are the play here. The Kings are one to monitor. I think that they have a penalty tax on their price because of their logo and their name. I'm not sure if they were just like the Minnesota Timberwolves or whatever. I'm not sure that they would be plus 450, just given their spot in the standings. Not that the Timberwolves are a bastion of a well-run organization, but at least they made the playoff last year already. So the Kings are probably one to monitor at plus 450. I think that's probably an okay price to bet at the moment, but certainly it's the type of thing where if the Kings lose 2 in a row, the market might drift them out to plus 800, which would be a little bit silly. Any belief in the Kings?
No, but we're all kind of waiting for that. Right? Like we're all kind of expecting that that's going to come at any point. A team that has overachieved its expectation to this point in the season, largely based on health. It's you expect a little bit of a shoe to drop at some point as their kind of competition is rounding into playoff form. So, yeah, I mean, we could be looking past them. I give the Kings, let me look at my numbers, just under 20% chance to win this division, which tells you more about my rating of the Kings as a team probably than it does, anything about their schedule or their makeup. I'm a little over 50% for the Suns, and that's baking in an expectation that Kevin Durant comes back in early March. And then the remainder of my win probability is going to the Clippers, which is a little under 30%.
Yep, that makes sense to me. All right, last division, the Southwest division. The Grizzlies are minus 500. The Mavs are plus 330. Pelicans are 20 to 1. I think the Grizzlies might be the bet at minus 500, honestly. I think that's decent enough parlay fodder. I mean, they've got a handy lead, 7 up in the loss column over the Mavs, and they probably project as the better team going forward as well. Both these teams have got really easy schedules. I think people are sleeping on Memphis a little bit overall. They've been very uninspiring the past month or so. I think that they are still going to be heard from in the West. Yeah, no bet on the Mavs for me at the current price.
I make the Grizzlies almost 99% chance to win this division. So, yeah, 500 looks good. You're not locking it up for very long, but if you, it's a good, like I think the way you framed it is fair. That's a good kind of parlay cornerstone, especially if you're going to try to get down or try to like boost some of the award market stuff that might be plus EV.
Yep, I like it. All right. A reminder to download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, let's close out by talking 3 of the awards markets. Start with Coach of the Year. Joe Mazzulla is favorite, plus 160. It's a little bit short for my liking. Mike Brown, plus 200. Michael Malone, plus 300. Jacque Vaughn, 6 to 1. Jenkins, 8 to 1. He's not going to win. Doc Rivers isn't going to win either, I suspect, at 10 to 1. And then my favorite bet on the board is JB Bickerstaff at 11 to 1 on PointsBet. There are some bigger prices about, though. I'll give the case for Bickerstaff in a second, but what do you think of this market, Drew?
I am defending a 50 to 1 position on Mike Brown, so I don't think that's going to win, and I am trying to find best price available on guys that I think realistically have a shot. I don't think that sort of that second tier is priced correctly, people have, I don't think Malone, Jenkins, Rivers realistically have a shot. Basically, I think this comes down to Missoula, Brown, and or a long shot kind of emerging from the depths as sort of the sharper minds and the lead voices, the influencers in the awards betting market start to really push hard for some candidate. It could be Daigneault if the if the Thunder make a play-in spot, surely he's going to be talked about. Could be Thibodeau again, although having won the award recently, he's probably not going to get as much shine unless they creep all the way up to the 4 seed, which seems unlikely. So that leaves us with Bickerstaff as a potential long shot candidate. And I agree with you, the price at 11-1 is not good enough, but there are better prices out there.
Yes, I think with Bickerstaff, the case is one, they've got a really easy schedule the rest of the way, so they've got a good chance to get to the 3 seed, if not the 2 seed. They've got the number 1 defense right now, and the key thing with that is that with this award across any sport, you need to be able to point to the coaching that is being done. That's why it's so hard to make a case for Michael Malone, because what does he really do outside of have Nikola Jokic on his team, and the team sucks every year when Jokic is on the bench? Yes, they play hard. They seem to have a good team spirit and culture, but I think that is not going to be a winning coach of the year case unless he runs away with the best record in the league and there's no one else. With Bickerstaff, there's a very easy thing to point to, which is that he's gotten Donovan Mitchell and Karis LeVert and Darius Garland to all play defense to the level where right now they're the number 1 defense. And also, I think the thing with this is that in coach of the year, you get latent respect and credit for what you've done in years past. We saw that with Monty Williams last year when he probably should have won the year prior over Tom Thibodeau. And then, JB Bickerstaff, the Cavs win total last year was 26.5, and I think they won 44 games, and he didn't even finish top 3 in coach of the year. So I think he'll get latent credit for that. And in a weak field, I think that he's very live if he's top 3 seed, number 1 defense, and they finish on a bit of a tear, which I suspect they will with their schedule. You mentioned Mark Daigneault. He's the other guy who I think is somewhat appetizing at the current price, just because I think if they get a 6 seed, that's close to auto win for Daigneault. Wow. And even some chance as well as a 7. But yeah, I think that they've got a very easy schedule as well. So I think that those are the 2 bets to be made, Bickerstaff and Daigneault. Let's talk 6th man of the year. Very wonky market. I think we've gone from one violently mispriced favorite in Russell Westbrook to another violently mispriced favorite in Malcolm Brogdon, who is minus 170 right now. Norm Powell is plus 350. Tyrese Maxey 4-1. Westbrook plus 650. I'm not sure I'd bet him at 100-1, honestly. And then Matherin's not going to win. Christian Wood 60-1. Painful player to watch if you have a bet on him, even though he does have a fair bit of upside. And the wager that I would approach this market is, in terms of why Brogdon shouldn't be this heavily favored, is why does he have a materially better case than Bobby Portis, who's 100-1? Portis is averaging 14 and 10. He's about to come back from his injury. Brogdon's averaging 14 and 3.7 assists. Brogdon's shooting efficiency is slightly better. Portis's advanced stats on-off is slightly better. The Celtics are a half game up on the Bucks for the 1 seed. I don't really see that much difference between those 2 guys, which makes me think that Brogdon should not be minus 170. But what's your handicap of this one?
I think you're correct, and honestly, the only kind of seasoning I can add to that is that the violent mispricing that's going on. Obviously, somebody has given the bookmakers PTSD for the Tyler Hero situation last year. They figure that somebody's going to run away with this award at some point, and they're going to get caught holding the bag on a bunch of just insane prices. But I don't see it with Brogdon at all. I'm sticking with my guns here on Tyrese Maxey being the guy. He's going to need to continue to make meaningful contributions for the Sixers to realize anything this regular season. As we kind of laid out, their schedule's tough. They're going to have to, continue to perform well. And as you kind of laid it out, I think a couple weeks ago, you were basically betting on the Sixers core staying healthy. And it looks like, at least to this point, that is, we're very close to the finish line with that kind of thesis. So Tyrese Maxey qualifies here coming up in short order. And at that point, I think he's going to be your favorite.
Yep. I agree there. I think Maxi at plus 400 is a bet. I think Norm Powell at plus 350 is a bet as well. And then I think Christian Wood at 60 to 1 and Bobby Portis at 100 to 1 are both worth small bets too, just because it's a wide open field and those guys can theoretically make a run. There's just a lot of value on the board because Brogdon is gobbling up far too much of the book. All right, we're going to get out of here, so we'll save Defensive Player of the Year for another day. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks, everyone, watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll see you soon.